I didn't really see anything real recently about any updates with the special hauling and so forth, so I'm assuming that everything is as it should be. Other than that, like Carlos said, we've, Jennifer got involved, we got an engineer. It really isn't gonna pay to do much of anything else until that engineer comes out and does his survey of the two properties.
Okay.
You know, looking at the water table, looking at the closeness to the houses, all of these things.
Now, is this in terms of composting yard waste, or is
No.
this is still?
We're still in the realm of horseman work here. This isn't.
And if we went to just the yard waste end of things?
Going to just yard waste, there is very little restrictions out there. You know, your particular town or your particular village may have some restrictions as far as the location of your pit or so on, but as far as needing permits and so forth, no, it's.
I mean, in terms of us doing it for the park district?
The vegetation?
Yes.
We could do that, we could do that.
And do we know what the cost would be for that?
You know, I was looking at the bigger picture, I was looking
Okay.
at the manure and not the homeowner side.
Carlo, was that 3,000 per?
No, total.
Okay,
That's right. So
total.
I'm
Thank you.
assuming 1,500 each location.
Thank you.
You know, the EPA isn't gonna take my word, if I fill out the forms, they're not gonna take my word that the water table is such and such, or, and so on. That's why you have to have a real engineer do this for you and get the ball rolling for you. Or just plain say it's not practical, then don't do it.
Well, I got a question for you, if you don't mind. In regards to EPA and standards, was this ever cleared or checked into regards to what we have and the general factor of compost handling right now?
Everything I've looked into right now is proper. I've looked for permits for the special hauling versus hazardous hauling. And like I said, the special hauling really doesn't require anything. And if you're within your realm, let's say even the park district, if the park district gets the okay and they compost at Four Seasons and use that compost at Four Seasons, there are no restrictions. Once that compost or the manure leaves the site that it was manufactured on, then you're subject to permits and surveys and so on.
So we probably need to give staff direction. Does anybody want to pursue that report that Carlo mentioned they'd have to hire someone to do? Or do you want to move away from this discussion or just focus on landscaping?
Well, it'd probably be good to look at the possible options, because keeping horses and hauling manure, it's going to constantly go up and up and up. And to keep the prices down, horses, having a horse or stabling a horse costs a lot of money right from the get-go. And raising prices, for stable use, may just push us right out the door, where we won't have no stable horses, in the vicinity because of cost. So,
Right now, though, our earlier report stated, though, is we would still need to continue removing the waste. We would not be able to compost the amount of waste we remove on a weekly basis. Because right now, we're removing approximately 30 yards, Gene? Is that what your earlier
Yes,
report
sir.
stated?
Yes.
And you're anticipating you can compost 5 cubic yards?
About 5 cubic
per
yards
month?
a month.
If we went with the standard, so it would depend on, like,
We would, from everything I read, and I can verify this through the engineer,
Because.
we would need 50 to 100 acres to open up a field, a composting field, to use everything we had.
do we have one already?
Pardon me?
How many acres we got on, was it Ridge?
75.
It's close to 100.
Because we now have learned that this is already being composted, and because our anticipation that it would not save us money to compost the manure ourselves, I can't see us, going further with the manure composting. But I don't want to leave behind the thought that we could get greener by composting at least our other kinds of chipped products, trees that were taken down, our grasses and our leaves and all that kind of stuff. So that's my feeling at this time.
Jean, how hard would it be to gather up landscape waste that we have? I mean, I don't think you bag the clippings, do you?
I don't think that would be a bad, possibility of us doing. When we rake the leaves from the tennis courts, a lot of this work I think we're doing anyway. And now we would have a spot to try it.
What do you do with your leaves and stuff at this present point?
We usually burn them.
Oh, green.
And if you were to compost them.
You're referring to the leaves you collect inside the concrete area.
Right.
Because the leaves in the general, in the parks, we mulch. We cut.
Yeah, in the parks, the
We don't do
grass,
leaf collection in the
whatever is
parks.
mulched, it goes
Just wanna
back
make
into
sure.
the soil.
That'd be
It's
too
all-
much. So what would you do with the composted landscape waste? Would you spread it on the sports fields or
Well, it's,
the flower beds or?
yeah, it's considered a fertilizer once it's composted. We would have to look at probably checking what kind of chemicals are in it, how the nitrogen is, how that is. There's still a little bit of a danger even with home waste where the chemicals could burn the flower beds. You don't want, you could burn the flower beds that you put it on. There's still a little risk there, but.
Well, I agree with Mimi that since the waste hauler composts the manure, I think that's enough for me.
Well, the way one fellow from the Department of Ag explained it to me was, do you recycle your plastic bottles and so forth? And I said, yes, we do. And he says, well, it's we put them in a dumpster, we have a vendor pick it up and take it, and it's recycled. He says, doing the compost is like the recycling, stopping it midway, and you trying to recycle your own plastic bottles. It's really,
Not cost
A board
effective for us to
decision.
do it, whereas it might be for a large company to do it. Yeah.
Any recommendations how staff should proceed at this point? I know how I feel, but
I agree, I don't think that, knowing that they're doing what we wanted to do, I don't see any need to incur more costs to do that.
anything else?
I agree with that.
And then what about the landscaping, composting? What do you think? Is that something they should look further into?
I think we need to be greener. I don't think burning is anything we should do anymore. And I would like, and I feel like we should have a green policy that addresses all of this. Not that I want to give the policy committee another policy to work on.
That's what it sounds like to me.
well, there again, like Carlo brought up, we are burning the old dead weeds and leaves that sit in tennis courts and so forth. We're not burning the freshly mulched turf.
But you really shouldn't be putting the freshly mulched leaves on the garden because it does pull out the nitrogen from the ground in order to break it down. I know, I'm the only one, I know horticulture.
You guys feel burned anyway, so burn courts, burn everything.
Well, prescribed burns go on to eliminate invasive species and
different, that's a
Right.
different kind of burn.
Right.
So are we looking for Jean to give any further information? Obviously, I'm assuming then the horse manure is a done topic, we can move past it, but are we looking for Jean to go into any research or costs associated with composting yard waste?
Me, no, but what does everyone else think?
I would, Mary.
I see Larry shaking his head, no. Rob shaking his head, no.
Not, but we can look as we move forward into developing some more green policy. I know that's one of Jennifer's pet projects that she likes, so we can work forward to that as we move forward with our green policy as a whole.
Is that,
Does that make me happy?
yes?
Well, as long as I know it's not a dead topic totally, I guess I'm okay with that. We'll look at it for the time being. I'm not saying you won't hear about it from me again at some point.
Is that giving you the direction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, we're moving forward as is.
Okay, item 14, new business, committee appointments. At this time, I would like to table that until the June meeting.
And it's not an action item, so.
It's not an action item,
No.
so we're gonna table that. Board initiatives.
So does that mean that the current committees would
They
stay
would
as
stay.
is? Okay.
Board initiatives. What do we have?
RFP for concessions with Powder Street.
That's right. Forget about the manure. And that's about it. Okay, now it's time for commissioner comments. Commissioner Ayers?
The one thing I wanted to bring up is I've noticed a substantial increase in the number of ads that show in the patch, and I think it's fantastic. Every time that pops up, it's so great to see Park District programs that are coming up. Everything that I look at in there is great. There's a large number of the programs that we have, and I think it's fantastic to start, to the presentation that was done a little bit earlier tonight. We need to get folks out there and reading it, and I think that's a very quick read, and, for the shorter attention spans that people are looking for, okay, what's going on, those are very prominent, and I think that they're being done very well.
Commissioner Newton?
I wanted to recognize the work of the Delphi Group and the residents who participated in the survey, and thank them very much for their input and feedback for our services. And also I wanted to recognize the participants in the Normantronic Question Center that in competition recently. So it was very, very good for them to be able to succeed as far as it worked.
Commissioner Paul?
I attended the IAPD legislative conference a couple of weeks ago with Cheryl Carlo and Commissioner Steines. And I'm really thankful that I had that opportunity and that I was able to learn more about the legislative process and what that means, about how it works as an elected official, and to get to talk to our representatives, and how our relationship with the legislature is important to the Park District and us moving forward and us having success. And I want to encourage citizens to stay on top of that, go to the IAPD website and look at what we're watching, because it's just amazing to me how many pieces of legislation can directly affect our park districts that the state of Illinois deals with.
Commissioner Steines?
Hopefully in the future, with regards to the Park District, I hope to see better support in regards to events, in regards to supporting creations of the funds, and gathering up more interest to the Park District in regards so we can start creating our indoor facilities and better recreational activities for our citizens here in Plainfield. And for whoever the new commissioners are going to be assigned to their, recreational and marketing, here's a little ad. All you gotta do is read the newspapers. They show all kinds of other park districts doing a lot of things. We pass them along to the press. There's all kinds of cultural events. We need to do more. We haven't been doing enough, throughout the years, so. That's all I got to say.
Commissioner Slawski.
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate our re-elected commissioners, Mary Ludeman and Mary Newton, and to welcome our duly elected commissioners, Mimi and Rob. It's great to have you all here together. And I want to congratulate Mary Ludeman, our re-elected president, and Larry Newton as vice president. I want to also thank the Delphi Committee for the hard work that they did. One comment I would make is I know in our report they talked about the improvements in the last 6 months. But I would like to say that these improvements started actually almost a year and a half ago in January when Mary and I got together. And from that moment on, the course of this park district changed, though many people would not see it for a while. And it's just been tremendous what has occurred. And thanks to Interim Director Ruth Brodsky, who also helped us along the way until we had our new Executive Director, Carlo Capapo, has worked his tail off to work within the community, with everyone, with the board members, and last but not least, all of the other employees of the park district, whose professionalism and real sense of teamwork has been so impressive, and whom are really a family, and sort of a family away from home, family to me. And so it was sort of a little bit of a sad part, but with moving forward, I have an announcement to make that due to my increased involvement in our family business and other increased responsibilities, I will no longer be a commissioner of the Park District. I tendered my resignation yesterday, effective tomorrow. I wish the very, very best for everyone, board and Park District, and I just see good things happening for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And I would like to add to that Janet was, wonderful to stick around. There were difficult times, as most people are aware, where she wanted to resign prior to now. And she knew when it was when things were rough, she wanted to stick around and help us right the ship, as people have called it, turn things around and make the Park District head in the direction that we're now heading. So I appreciate you sticking around, even though it was difficult for you, to help us get the Park District moving in the direction it's moving. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to thank Larry, or not thank Larry, well, thank Larry, sure, but also thank Larry for sticking around and hanging in there with us too. But I also want to mention what he said, same thing that he said about the Delphi Committee and staff and everybody working so hard to help us as well. And I saw a nice article in the Herald News about the Veterans Program, so I appreciate that. I saw there was some quotes in there from you, Cheryl, so I'm glad this sounds like it's going very well, and
I have 3 calls to return.
it's excellent, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you, staff, for working on that. And then that's all I have. Oh, and I do have one other thing. I'd like to recognize our finance department for receiving a GFOA Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting for fiscal year end June 30th, 2014. So the accounting assistants, Colette Nelson and Kim Hummerding, and then our accountant, Shelley Figgins, and our director of finance, Maureen Nugent. Congratulations.
How many consecutive have you guys done?
We lost count.
9, I think.
And for anybody that doesn't know, there's a lot of extra reports that need to be generated in order to qualify for this award. And our staff here always does a great job, and we always give this award for the past 9 years. So thank you very much for working as hard as you do. Is there an executive session?
Yes.
Okay. Seeking a motion to go into executive session as permitted under the Open Meetings Act under 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between a public body and its employees or their representatives, and 5 ILCS 122C21, the discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06 to reconvene. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, a motion was made by Commissioner Newton and seconded by Commissioner Ayers at 8:24 p.m. Roll call.
Ayers.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Poland.
Yes.
Solowski.
Yes.
Styles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we are gonna hold the meeting in here just because of some sound issues.